British politicians take their privacy seriously. To ensure a secret is a secret. Journalists have been sent to prison for listening into personal messages. Yet a mysterious contradiction exists between the privacy politicians demand and the privacy ordinary citizens receive. Civil rights organisation Amnesty International says it is taking legal action against the UK government over concerns that intelligence services have spied on its communications. Reports by Britain's Guardian newspaper claim British spying agency the Government Communications Headquarters, or GCHQ, and its American counterpart, the National Security Agency, or NSA, have been doing the spying. Leaked documents from American whistleblower Edward Snowden appear to confirm these allegations. According to the reports, GCHQ has secretly accessed millions of phone calls and electronic communications using the NSA's Tempora program. In June, Snowden uncovered the shocking news that the NSA and the FBI had been eavesdropping on millions of American and European phone records and the internet data from major internet companies such as Facebook, Yahoo, Google, Apple and Microsoft. So, how serious are British and American politicians about privacy? Do they really want to protect the private lives of citizens, or is it all just talk? These are the simple questions we set out to answer. We began by testing whether people actually cared about their privacy at all.
How would you feel if you found out that your private phone conversations, your texts, your emails and other messages were being routinely read, checked and monitored by people that you don't know?
To be honest, I'd be appalled. I think that's a shocking overstep by the state. I don't understand why they'd need that information, why they'd be concerned, and I think that's a real invasion of my privacy. I'd find it really intrusive, and I'd be very offended and angry about it.
I'd feel very angry. I wouldn't be very happy at all.
Yeah, I'd be a bit shocked and unhappy because obviously it's my own private life. You know, you don't want people going through your private details. What you text between you and a friend is confidential. It shouldn't be going, through hackers. So yeah, I'd be a bit shocked and upset, to be honest.
How would you feel if you found out that your private phone conversations, your texts, your emails and other messages were being routinely read, checked and monitored by people that you don't know?
I will be very, very upset about it, and I feel it is not appropriate for anybody to either monitor or read my texts without my express approval, so I'll be very, very upset about it.
I wouldn't be happy at all. That's private business as far as I'm concerned, so it shouldn't be seen by somebody I don't authorise to do that.
I'd feel quite violated, as if people, the government should really be able to look into things like that. There's private messages between you and the people I know. They're private for a reason. They're not supposed to be shared.
So, generally, the majority of the people we spoke to took a very negative view of state snooping. How serious a problem is it? We asked our experts.
Well, I think it depends on the circumstances. I'm perfectly confident that in most Western democratic liberal democracies that does not happen unless it has been authorised by some kind of a warrant or some kind of oversight mechanism. So I'm content.
I have found out, and I'm suing them in the civil courts. I'm suing them for money, for the distress and damage they caused me under the Data Protection Act, and I'm suing them to see the orders under which they did it.
As we've seen, a key figure in the debate about state spying is Edward Snowden. He's a former American intelligence expert who, out of conscience, felt obliged to reveal the extent to which this surveillance activity occurs. But has anyone heard of him? We asked the public, what do you know about Edward Snowden and the information that he has leaked about spying on people such as yourself? And do you want to know more about it?
What do you know about Edward Snowden and the information that he's leaked about spying on people such as yourself, and do you want to know more?
My level of understanding on the Snowden thing is that he was a whistleblower, and that he essentially leaked tactics and procedures of what the government use in order to spy on people. I think that there's always going to be some sort of a collateral intrusion on other people that are just completely innocent.
Yeah, I think we should always be entitled to know more. It's free speech over here, isn't it? So yeah, I kind of agree what he's done, but at the same time, I don't think that anybody should be able to pry into anybody's business, if I'm honest.
Well, I want to know everything that he knows. I think that he's kind of doling it out slowly, but I don't know. I want to see kind of the extent of what he's done, or what the American government has done, what they're doing, and what our government is doing. So it'd be interesting to know.
What do you know about Edward Snowden and the information that he's leaked about spying on people such as yourself, and would you want to know more?
I don't know that much about it. Obviously, it's been in all the national newspapers, and there's a big furor about him, and the US wants to get him back and everything.
So I guess the type of stuff that he exposed probably shouldn't be a surprise anyway. So you've always got to balance up the security v privacy debate. And there's probably stuff actually I don't want to know. I know stuff has to be looked at, so to a certain degree. I haven't got that much to hide, so I'm not, and so I'm not too bothered personally.
I do want to know more, and I'm glad that The Guardian have been publishing that, even though they've been getting some criticism from MPs and other people. I think it's really important that there's whistleblowers, and it's such a shame that that people like that don't get more public support. I think some of the revelations have kind of not really made the impact that I would have hoped. People seem willing to accept this kind of level of intrusion into their lives, when really it's not acceptable.
It's clear that most citizens have heard of Snowden, and vitally, they do feel eager to know more about the secret activities of this modern-day conscientious objector. How credible is Edward Snowden and his evidence? Here's the expert view.
Well, what I know about Edward Snowden is that he was a contractor for Booz Allen, and that in April 2012 he found a way of circumventing the controls that restricted his access to NSA databases that he was not entitled to see. And in his role as an administrator, although he should have been partnered with a supervisor at all time, he found a way of getting around the controls, and he downloaded between April and December we think, about 58,000 files. And I've got a huge problem with that, particularly because his disclosures have not revealed anything illegal. Every single operation that he has compromised by making public has been authorized, has been signed off by the relevant supervising or oversight committee, or in the case of the metadata, has been approved by the Supreme Court. So what he has done is appalling, and it's a grotesque breach of trust.
I think Edward Snowden is the man of the 21st century. He has disclosed extraordinary criminality. I use the word deliberately, criminality, by a foreign intelligence system who have been stealing everything in all the data in our country from us as citizens and from the government.
We asked the public why they thought the UK and US governments are spying on ordinary members of the British public.
Why do you think that the UK and the United States governments are spying on ordinary members of the British public?
They want to be a superpower. That's just it. They want to be the Big Ben. They want to know everything that is happening so that they can make an informed decision about some of their policies.
I can understand that from a government perspective, it's a tricky issue, because they obviously, since 9/11, security issues for governments have been very important. But I think there is a line in the sand that has to be drawn for privacy for citizens.
I don't know, maybe if you're on like a suspects list, then you could argue, or a criminal records list, then you could argue maybe they've got a right, but when it's just private and it's everyday people, I don't think that's acceptable, really.
Why do you think the UK and US government are spying on ordinary members of the British public?
I don't know. and I'd really like to hear their explanation for that.
It's probably for their own ends, isn't it? You know, for whatever reason they wanted to do it for. I totally disagree with it. They shouldn't be able to do it at all.
I think they're using a blanket approach to see if they can pick up anything. So they're trying to spy on everybody so that they can pick up terrorists or whatever they're looking for at the time. But they're not actually using a very intelligent method of doing so, because I'm sure there'll be a more efficient way of doing it than spying on absolutely everybody.
Again, the public were quite clear this was about a political agenda, partly related to terrorism. Are they right?
Well, the proposition that the American or the UK governments are spying on ordinary members of the public is a myth. The only intelligence collection operations are conducted legitimately against terrorists, criminals, people engaged in proliferation activities, and narcotic smugglers, or people involved in major crime. And the only people who are subject to surveillance, electronic or any other kind, in this country are people who have had their cases reviewed by a democratically elected or some kind of other appointed oversight committee. So there are plenty of checks and balances within the system. This is not an arbitrary environment in which a security apparatus operates without any control or checks. And indeed, of course, in the UK, all these activities are subject to review by the European Court of Human Rights, and the Investigatory Powers Tribunal also exercises authority and can investigate complaints from any single individual who feels that the law has been broken or that they've come under surveillance that is illegal.
They're spying on them in order to find out what they think, what they say, and then to manipulate and control them. And it's terribly important to remember that what they're doing is not a casual civil thing, it's criminal. They're breaking at least 3 different laws.
As we've already learned, Amnesty International is planning legal action over alleged intelligence work against its operations. Yet the UK government has allowed information about things such as your shopping habits, your bank account details, your political views, your home address, and even your social circle to be bought and traded without citizens even knowing it. Does this affect how citizens live, and how do they feel about it?
The UK government has allowed information regarding things such as your shopping habits, bank account details, political views, home address, and even your social circle to be bought and traded without you even knowing it. Does this change how you act? How do you feel about that?
I strongly disagree with that. I think companies like Google, they've got a lot to answer for. They routinely have been found guilty of privacy laws. They very often are open that they'll sell you information. And if the government are using it to make money, I disagree with that.
It's not just the government, it's already happening. You know, you can buy data from credit card companies, certain credit scoring agencies, that's how they all work. So it's all being bought and sold anyway as almost, for commercial gains, let alone for governmental issues, so it doesn't bother me.
It could change how I live, like it just make me scared of everything I'm doing, I'm being watched. It just don't give you any private personal life. People should just be allowed to do what they want to do without being watched. It's not right.
The UK government has allowed information regarding things such as your shopping habits, your bank account details, your political views, your home address, your social circles, to be bought and traded without you even knowing it. Does this change? Is this likely to change how you act and how you feel?
I didn't actually know there's the information being used to that extent. That is shocking. I cannot believe it. What right does the government have to sell my information so it can be used by people who are then going to try and market stuff to me? That's absolutely shocking. Yes, I think it'll make me be more careful about what kind of information I use online.
Well, since I use my mobile phone so much and things like that, it's not an option for me to stop talking over those sorts of platforms. It's just, you can't really do anything about it. It's not a really good situation to be in.
It won't change really how I'm going to act day to day, because I kind of the view that ignorance is bliss in a sense, but I'm not happy the idea that anyone's making a profit out of it or any kind of targeted advertising, because these days that's so difficult to get away from advertising everywhere. So the fact that they're buying and selling that kind of information makes me very uneasy.
What is the extent of data sharing, which is apparently permissible in the eyes of Western governments? Our experts had this to say.
It's quite true that a huge amount of personal data is collected for commercial purposes. And of course, when you build up a profile and the spending habits of an individual, their visits to the supermarket, what they purchase, all of that has a value, and it of course is traded. It also makes our commercial system more efficient. So it's not surprising that this information is collected, but I don't believe that it's any business of government to regulate it.
The UK government have allowed a foreign intelligence service to strip every citizen in this country of their intimate data, which is a criminal offence. However, what the government has also done, and it's beyond stupidity and is criminal, the government have allowed this foreign intelligence service to strip the government of its data.
The relationship between Britain and America is special, and information sharing is no exception. The UK government has offered personal information of citizens to the US without the individual's consent. In doing this, how closely do the public feel the UK government represents their views and interests?
The UK government has offered your personal information to the United States without your consent. How closely do you feel the UK government represents your views and interests?
I understand what the UK government has to do. They have to put the security of the citizens paramount. No one would like a situation like we had on 7/7, for example. So I understand there might need to be some sacrifices made in that way, but I don't condone any of buying or selling information to different governments.
I don't think they really recommend my views at all. Totally. I think the government's wrong. I just think they should all be shot, if I'm honest. All of them.
You can't really say, can you? I mean, who knows? It's when they're doing things like that and giving it to the USA, then you're always going to be sceptical about who to trust, and I don't know who you can trust anymore.
Oh, it doesn't really at all, and it can't be a democracy if if America's interests are being served by our government taking our data, because we don't vote in the American government. So I'm very angry about how America and the UK have been sharing data.
I'm making the assumption that they're representing my interests. That might be wrong, but I think you need to be positive.
Is there a relationship between public interest and data sharing? Our experts offered these opinions.
Well, I have no reason to believe that the UK government has ever passed personal information about me or any other British citizen, unless they're a terrorist suspect or under a significant criminal investigation, to the US authorities. What the US authorities can get without a warrant, as indeed the British authorities can, is the billing information of your communication. So in other words, your telephone records, but only to the extent of the time and the duration of the calls, the dates and the places of the calls, but not the actual content of the calls. And that is data mining, and it's there for a reason, and that is to be able to keep us safer, to enable the authorities to protect us from terrorists.
It's violated them, and it's violated them criminally. And I am suing the instruments, but I'm not suing the British government yet. I hope that the police and Parliament will do that, because what the government has done is broken a whole string of laws.
When journalists breach people's privacy, they can go to prison. One newspaper was even closed down over the scandal. Yet, at present, there seems no clear form of compensation for state-sponsored invasions of privacy. We asked the public would they feel entitled to any redress from the United Kingdom government for an invasion of privacy, and if so, what would that be?
Would you feel entitled to compensation of some sort from the UK government for the misuse of your privacy and the invasion of your privacy? And if so, what form would that compensation take or redress?
Definitely financial compensation, and also a promise that they won't do it again.
I'd have to say that whilst that might be theoretically desirable, I can't see it being practical or ever likely, given the numbers of people it's likely to involve. So I'd have to say that whilst I might, in theory, say, yeah, great, that's never going to happen from a practical perspective.
I think it would depend how much I felt my privacy had been invaded, and certainly if it's illegal activity, there would be some kind of not just compensation for me, perhaps financial, but also some redress against the individuals that have made those decisions. So compensation in the form of prosecution of people that have acted outside the law, if in fact that's what's happened.
Would you feel entitled to compensation of some sort from the UK government for the invasion of privacy, and if so, what form would that compensation take, legal or financial?
No, I don't think so. It's the cost of doing business, is what they say. If my information is stored and used, I'm fine with it. I would probably want compensation if it had a negative effect on me. If information that was leaked about me, which was wrong, and had an effect on my business or my family, I would definitely seek compensation. But as it stands, this whole Snowden thing has had very little impact on me.
I don't really think so. It's not. As much as they are invading people's privacy, it would cost far too much to pay everyone back in some sort of way.
I just think that they should just stop, or like at least tell us, because they don't even tell us that they're doing it. They should at least tell us, or just make a final point, stop it, and let us know and prove it.
Is there a formal right to justice against state intrusion of this nature? And why does the state seem able to invade privacy in a way which is illegal when it comes to journalists?
Well, I've never experienced an invasion of privacy, and 99.99% of people in this country are not subject to any kind of investigation or interception or electronic surveillance. So for most people, this is a completely irrelevant issue. Of course, terrorists and significant criminals have a big vested interest in trying to prevent the authorities from monitoring their activities.
The writs I have issued are for the specific damage done to me by the American corporations who have stolen the data and transferred it to this foreign intelligence service. The British government would owe about 20 million people money, so that's not realistic. But it would be realistic to demand that the British government prosecute the people who did this. That would be the proper compensation.
Normally, the secretive practices of trading the personal information of citizens is a serious crime. Under almost all circumstances, it is also a gross breach of trust. Our findings show the majority of the public do care about their privacy. They also feel angry about the government's willingness to disregard the right to a private space into which the authorities must not venture. Everyone in Britain is at risk of state intrusion. Until the public makes its anger felt, intelligence organisations will continue to disregard a fundamental right of citizens, that of privacy.